The first thing every new nurse heard at Maple Ridge Hospital wasn't about emergency procedures or medication schedules. It was about Ethan Cole. If the agency assigns you to the Cole house, one veteran nurse whispered during orientation, start updating your resume. The room usually erupted in nervous laughter. The experienced nurses never laughed. They had all heard the stories. Some had lived them. Ethan Cole had become something close to a legend, a patient so impossible that no one could satisfy him for more than a few days. Every nurse who walked through his front door left with the same exhausted expression, promising never to return. One had lasted 6 days. Another survived 5. The record was exactly 6 days and 18 hours. No one had ever completed a full week. The agency had stopped asking why. The answers were always different. He criticized everything. He never said thank you. He watches every move you make. He treats you like you're on trial. He doesn't trust anyone. Eventually, the agency simply marked his file with one sentence in bold red letters. High turnover. Extreme professionalism required. What the file didn't explain was how Ethan had become that way. 3 years earlier, Ethan wasn't known as the difficult man in the wheelchair. He was known as the strongest contractor in the county. He built houses with his own hands, worked 16-hour days without complaint, and came home every evening covered in dust just in time to lift his little son, Liam, onto his shoulders. His wife, Sarah, used to joke that Ethan smiled more than anyone she'd ever met. Their neighbors believed they had the perfect family. Then one ordinary Tuesday changed everything. A scaffold collapsed at one of Ethan's construction sites. He pushed 2 younger workers out of their way before the steel beams crashed down. The workers survived. Ethan barely did. After multiple surgeries, doctors delivered the news that shattered his future. He would never walk again. As if that wasn't enough, only 8 months later Sarah died unexpectedly after a sudden illness that progressed faster than anyone imagined. In less than a year Ethan had lost his career, his independence, and the love of his life. All that remained was Liam. The cheerful builder disappeared. In his place stood a man who trusted no one. Especially strangers. When home care nurses began visiting, Ethan created rules. Don't move anything. Don't ask personal questions. Don't treat me like I'm helpless. Don't pity me. Don't pretend we're friends. Most nurses tried to comfort him. That irritated him. Others ignored Liam completely. That made Ethan furious. Some treated Ethan like a fragile patient instead of the capable father he still wanted to be. Those nurses never came back. Month after month, replacements arrived. Month after month, replacements left. Soon Ethan's name spread through every medical agency in the city. He became the assignment everyone dreaded. One rainy Monday morning, staffing coordinator Denise Parker stared helplessly at her computer. Every experienced nurse had declined Ethan's case. Every single one. She rubbed her forehead before calling his number. Ethan. What is it? We're sending someone new. No. You don't have another choice. I'll wait. You've already waited for days. I'll wait longer. Denise hesitated. There really isn't anyone else. Silence. Finally Ethan sighed. Fine. Name. Molly Harris. I don't know her. She's recently graduated. So she's inexperienced. Yes. I'm not running a training program. I know. Another pause. There is something else. What now? She's a little unconventional. I don't pay for unconventional. Denise almost smiled despite herself. No, you pay for nursing care. I'm serious. So am I. Ethan rubbed his temple. Send her. He ended the call before she could say anything more. At exactly 8 o'clock the next morning, the doorbell rang. Ethan opened the security camera feed from his tablet. A young woman stood outside holding two oversized canvas bags and balancing a coffee cup in one hand. Her blue scrubs looked freshly pressed, but a few strands of brown hair had escaped from her ponytail. Round glasses rested crookedly on her nose. She wasn't the slim, perfectly polished nurse Ethan expected. She looked ordinary. Comfortably ordinary. She shifted the heavy bags from one shoulder to another and smiled toward the camera. "I know you're watching," she said cheerfully. Ethan frowned. He unlocked the door remotely. When she stepped inside, she immediately removed her shoes without being asked. "Good morning," she said. "You must be Ethan. You must be leaving." She blinked once. "I literally just got here. You'll be gone before Friday." She shrugged. "I've had worse predictions." Ethan folded his arms. "No shoes on the carpet." "I noticed." "Don't move my things." "I won't." "Don't ask about my accident." "I wasn't planning to." "Don't ask about my wife." She answered quietly. "I won't ask about anything you don't volunteer." That wasn't the response he expected. Most nurses apologized. She simply accepted the boundary. She carried her bags into the kitchen. Without opening every cabinet, she spent several minutes simply looking around. Ethan noticed. "What are you doing?" "Learning." "By staring?" "I'd rather observe first than rearrange your life." He said nothing. She unpacked medical supplies carefully. Blood pressure monitor. Medication organizer. Sterile gloves. Emergency equipment. Everything was placed neatly without disturbing anything that already belonged in the kitchen. When she couldn't find an item, she asked. She never assumed. After reviewing Ethan's medications, she checked every prescription twice before handing him the morning tablets. "Water. I can drink by myself." "I know." She simply placed the glass within reach. No dramatic gestures. No hovering. No unnecessary help. It annoyed Ethan that she seemed to understand exactly how much assistance to offer. Upstairs, a bedroom door creaked open. 8-year-old Liam slowly walked downstairs, rubbing his eyes. He stopped immediately upon seeing the stranger. The little boy had inherited his father's cautious silence. "Morning," Molly said softly. Liam didn't answer. He looked toward his father instead. Ethan expected the usual flood of cheerful questions. "What's your favorite cartoon? What grade are you in?" Instead, Molly quietly walked to the stove. 10 minutes later she placed a plate on the table. The pancake wasn't round. It had tiny spikes along its back. A smiling dinosaur made from blueberries and banana slices. Liam stared at it in complete surprise. Molly simply returned to washing dishes. "I made too much batter." She didn't pressure him to eat. She didn't wait for praise. She acted as though dinosaur pancakes happened every morning. After nearly a minute, Liam picked up his fork. "It's a T-Rex." Without turning around, Molly answered, "Actually, I think it's trying very hard to be one." For the first time in weeks, Liam giggled. The quiet sound filled the kitchen. Ethan looked up from his coffee. His son was smiling. Not politely. Not out of obligation. A real smile. One Ethan hadn't seen since the previous school year. Ethan quickly hid his reaction behind a blank expression. One smile changed nothing. Absolutely nothing. Or at least, that was what he kept telling himself, the first smile should have meant nothing. At least, that was what Ethan kept telling himself. One dinosaur-shaped pancake wasn't enough to erase months of loneliness or years of grief. It certainly wasn't enough to convince him that Molly Harris would be any different from the 22 nurses who had come before her. Every one of them had started well. Every one of them had eventually disappointed him. He wasn't about to lower his guard. The days that followed became a quiet battle of patience. Ethan searched constantly for mistakes. When Molly organized his medication, he checked every label after she left the room. Everything was correct. When she prepared lunch, he inspected the ingredients, expecting forgotten allergens or the wrong portions. Everything was exactly right. When she helped him transfer from his wheelchair to the bed for his afternoon therapy, she never rushed him or made him feel helpless. She simply asked one question. Ready? If he answered yes, she helped. If he answered no, she waited. No sighs. No impatience. No sympathy. Just respect. That irritated Ethan more than he wanted to admit. One evening Liam came home unusually quiet after school. Normally Ethan could coax a few words out of him. That day the boy barely touched his dinner. Molly noticed but didn't ask questions. Instead, she disappeared into the living room and returned carrying an old cardboard box she had found in the storage closet while looking for spare blankets. Permission to make a mess, she asked. Ethan frowned. What kind of mess? The harmless kind. Without waiting for an answer, she spread newspapers across the dining table and poured out dozens of colorful puzzle pieces she had discovered inside the box. Liam looked up. I used to do those with Mom. The room fell silent. Sarah. Her name hadn't been spoken inside the house for months. Ethan expected Molly to apologize. Instead, she simply sat down. Then maybe you can teach me. I'm terrible at puzzles. Liam hesitated before sitting beside her. Within minutes they were laughing over pieces that looked almost identical. Ethan watched from across the room. For the first time since Sarah's death, someone had allowed her memory into the house without turning it into a tragedy. No pity. No awkward silence. Just love remembered naturally. That night, after Liam went to bed, Ethan found Molly washing the coffee mugs. You broke one of my rules, he said quietly. She looked confused. I did. You let him talk about his mother. She nodded. He wanted to. Most people avoid it. That's because they are uncomfortable. She dried the mug carefully. Missing someone doesn't disappear because nobody says their name. Ethan didn't know how to answer. He simply rolled away. For the first time in years, he lay awake thinking instead of trying to avoid thinking. By Thursday, something had changed. The house no longer felt heavy. Liam hummed while getting dressed for school. The curtains stayed open longer. Music sometimes played softly in the kitchen while Molly cooked. None of it was dramatic. Just small pieces of life quietly returning. Ethan hated admitting that he noticed. On Friday afternoon, rain clouds gathered across the neighborhood. The weather forecast warned of severe thunderstorms. Molly checked the emergency flashlights, backup batteries, and medical supplies without saying a word. Expecting the apocalypse. Ethan asked sarcastically. I prefer being bored with too much preparation. A few hours later the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. The storm had knocked out electricity across the neighborhood. Outside, rain hammered against the windows while thunder shook the house. The emergency generator should have started automatically. It didn't. Ethan reached for the flashlight beside his wheelchair. As he leaned forward, one wheel caught the edge of the living room rug. The chair tipped violently. He crashed onto the hardwood floor. Pain exploded through his back. Years of physical therapy vanished beneath one terrible moment. Ethan! Molly shouted. I'm fine. He wasn't. Before she could reach him, another sound echoed through the darkness. Dad! Liam! His frightened voice came from upstairs. Then came a loud crash. Glass breaking. Followed by crying. Molly froze for only a heartbeat. Agency policy was clear. Never leave a fallen patient until emergency assistance arrived. Call 911. Stabilize the patient. Wait. But Liam was alone upstairs. Crying. Terrified. Molly looked at Ethan. He understood exactly what she was thinking. Go, he said through clenched teeth. But you? Go. Without another second of hesitation, Molly broke every rule in the agency handbook. She sprinted upstairs through the darkness, using only the flashlight on her phone. She found Liam curled beside his bedroom window. A heavy picture frame had fallen during the storm, shattering against the floor. The boy wasn't seriously injured, but tiny cuts covered one hand, and fear had completely overwhelmed him. Molly wrapped him in a blanket. "It's okay," she whispered calmly. "I'm here." She checked him quickly for injuries before carrying him downstairs despite the broken glass scattered across the hallway. When she reached Ethan, she gently settled Liam beside his father. Only then did she kneel to examine Ethan's back. Minutes later the ambulance arrived. The paramedics assessed both father and son. Liam needed only a few bandages. Ethan had escaped with painful bruises but no serious new injuries. One paramedic glanced at Molly. "You left the patient?" She nodded. "Yes. You know that's against protocol." "I do. But if I had stayed downstairs, that little boy would have been alone and terrified." The paramedic looked at Liam, who refused to let go of Molly's hand. He simply nodded. Sometimes compassion mattered more than procedure. As the ambulance drove away, Ethan watched Molly sitting quietly beside Liam. For the first time in years, someone had broken his rules. Not out of carelessness. Not out of pride. But because protecting his son mattered more than protecting her own job. And for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan realized the walls around his heart had begun to crack, not because someone forced them open, but because one kind, ordinary nurse had patiently shown him that trust could return one small act at a time.